A lot of people think DHM is basically a hangover antidote. That is the wrong starting point. Dihydromyricetin is a plant flavonoid, not a magic reset button. And the strongest human data so far are still limited, with most of the excitement coming from lab work, animal studies, and a small number of human trials. Here's what you'll get in the next few minutes. You'll learn what DHM actually is, what it may and may not do in your body, when food is probably enough, when a supplement might make more sense, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes people make with it. And one practical change you can make today is this. If you use or are thinking about using DHM, stop treating it like permission to drink more or self-treat liver issues, and run it by a qualified clinician or pharmacist first, especially if you take prescription medicines or have liver disease. So what is DHM? Think of it like one member of a huge family of plant compounds that plants make to protect themselves. The same way colorful berries contain polyphenols, DHM is a specific flavonoid found especially in vine tea, also called Ampelopsis grossidentata, and in Hovenia dulcis, sometimes called the Japanese or Oriental raisin tree. Your body does not make DHM naturally. It is not a vitamin, not a hormone, and not an essential nutrient, which means there is no recognized DHM deficiency disease the way there is for iron, vitamin C, or B12. You only get it from foods, teas, or supplements made from these plants.
How might it work? In simple terms, DHM seems to act in three big lanes. First, it may help dampen oxidative stress, which is basically the biochemical wear and tear that can rise with alcohol exposure, poor diet, and inflammation. Second, it may influence metabolic signaling, including pathways linked with insulin sensitivity and fat handling in the liver. Third, it may affect how your body responds to alcohol-related stress, at least in preclinical research, and it may also interact with enzymes involved in drug metabolism. Those are important clues, but clues are not the same thing as proven benefits in real people over the long term. If you want DHM from food or drink, vine tea is the most commonly discussed source. It is naturally rich in DHM, but the actual amount can vary a lot depending on the plant, harvest, and processing. In the real world, that means one mug of vine tea is not the same as another mug. A practical habit would be to use about 2 to 3 grams of dried vine tea leaves in hot water, once or twice a day, and treat it like a tea habit, not like a precise dose. Hovenia-based foods or extracts also contain DHM, but again, the amount is variable, and most people are not getting a measured intake from food alone. So if your goal is simply to include more plant compounds in your routine, tea makes sense. If your goal is a repeatable intake close to what was studied in human trials, a supplement is usually the only realistic way to get there. Now, let's talk supplements in plain English. DHM is usually sold in capsules, sometimes as purified dihydromyricetin, and sometimes as Hovenia or vine tea extract. Human trial dosing that we can point to includes 150 milligrams twice daily for 3 months in a 60-person fatty liver study. And a more recent 12-month trial used a supplement formula containing DHM at 300 milligrams per day, along with vitamin C and E and choline.
That is important because many products on the market use 300 to 500 milligrams per capsule, while some morning after formulas go much higher or add electrolytes, B vitamins, or NAC. So the label dose you see online may not match the best studied human setups. Timing matters a little, but probably not in the dramatic way marketing suggests. If someone is using DHM as a general supplement, taking it with food may be easier on the stomach. If someone is using it around alcohol, the evidence is not strong enough to say there is one proven perfect window. And because DHM has a known bioavailability problem, meaning your body may not absorb or hold on to it very efficiently, fancy formulations may try to solve that with special delivery systems, but that research is still developing. A very practical absorption tip is to avoid assuming more is always better. Start low, take it consistently if you use it at all, and give more weight to quality than to the biggest milligram number on the front of the bottle. For quality markers, look for third-party testing or certification, and for a company willing to show what form and amount of DHM is actually in the product. Independent certification programs like NSF verify label claims and check for unlisted ingredients and impurities. In the current market, rough pricing is often around about $0.25 to $1 per day, depending on dose, bottle size, and whether the formula is plain DHM or a blend.
Here is the part a lot of videos get wrong. Who needs DHM? Strictly speaking, nobody has a diagnosed DHM deficiency because it is not an essential nutrient your body requires. So if you were looking for classic deficiency signs, there are none. What you can do instead is ask whether your goal even matches what DHM has evidence for. A simple self-check is this: are you looking for a healthier pattern overall? Like less alcohol, better sleep, steadier blood sugar, and weight loss? If yes, DHM is not the foundation. Those habits are. Are you looking for a targeted supplement because you and your clinician are already monitoring liver enzymes, metabolic markers, or alcohol-related risk? Then the conversation becomes more reasonable. There is also no standard blood test for DHM itself, so the labs to discuss depend on your reason for using it. That might include liver enzymes like ALT, AST, and GGT, fasting glucose, A1C, and a lipid panel if you're using it in a metabolic or liver health context. Those are not DHM tests, they are context tests. Let me make this real with a few personas. If you were a budget eater who saw DHM all over social media after nights out, your best move is probably not buying the most hyped bottle. It is reducing alcohol load, alternating drinks with water, eating before drinking, and not expecting a supplement to rescue you. If you still want DHM, a simple single-ingredient product is usually easier to evaluate than a proprietary blend. If you are vegan or mostly plant-based, DHM is not something you are automatically missing.
You do not need it just because you avoid animal foods. A plant-forward diet already gives you lots of polyphenols, so a vine tea habit may make more sense than a capsule, unless you want a more standardized intake. And if you are someone with fatty liver, diabetes, high triglycerides, or heavy alcohol use, that is exactly the group that should be most careful about self-experimenting. Those are medical issues first, supplement issues second. DHM may become part of a clinician-guided plan, but it should not delay proper workup or treatment. Now for the evidence reality check. For hangovers and alcohol recovery, the public buzz is ahead of the human evidence. The biological story is interesting, and there are animal and mechanistic studies suggesting effects on alcohol-related pathways, but there is still not a large, definitive human trial showing that DHM reliably prevents or cures hangovers. For metabolic and liver markers, the evidence is a little more grounded, but still far from final. One randomized trial in 60 adults with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease used 150 milligrams twice a day for 3 months and reported improvements in several blood markers versus placebo. A newer double-blind trial in adults with MASLD used a supplement containing DHM 300 milligrams a day along with vitamin C, E, and choline for 12 months, which is more encouraging for longer-term study, but it also means you cannot automatically credit DHM alone for every result because it was part of a combo formula. And the clinicaltrials.gov listing for a first-in-human phase 1 study in alcohol-associated liver disease shows researchers are still working through basic safety and pharmacokinetics questions in humans. That tells you the field is active, but also still early. What do we still not know? A lot. We do not know the best dose for most goals. We do not know the long-term safety profile with the same confidence we have for common nutrients. We do not know which formulation gives the most dependable absorption in everyday use. And we do not know whether the eye-catching lab effects translate into meaningful outcomes, like fewer liver complications, better metabolic health, or reduced alcohol-related harm in diverse human populations over years instead of weeks or months. Safety is where you want to be boring and careful. The biggest practical concern is not that DHM has a long list of proven common side effects, it is that human safety data are still limited, especially for long-term use and special populations. Short human studies have looked reasonably reassuring, but limited is still limited. The interaction issue matters more. In laboratory studies using human liver microsomes, DHM inhibited CYP3A4, CYP2E1, and CYP2D6, which are enzymes that help process many medications. That means there is a real theoretical risk of herb-drug interactions, even if the clinical size of that risk is not fully mapped yet. So if you take antidepressants, antipsychotics, stimulant medicines, seizure medicines, Some pain medicines, sedatives, certain blood pressure medicines, or anything your pharmacist flags as CYP sensitive, do not freestyle this supplement. Pregnancy and breastfeeding are also easy no-for-now categories because there is not enough human safety data. Older adults and people with liver disease should be more cautious, not less, because they are more likely to be on multiple medicines and more vulnerable to unexpected interactions. If you try DHM and you notice a rash, swelling, trouble breathing, severe vomiting, confusion, yellowing of the eyes, dark urine, or suddenly worsening abdominal pain, stop and get medical help. Those are not push-through-it symptoms. More minor issues, if they happen, are more likely to be the usual supplement-type complaints, like stomach upset, nausea, or headache. But again, the honest answer is that long-term human adverse effect tracking is still thin. 3 myths to kill fast. First, DHM does not make alcohol harmless. Second, natural does not mean interaction-free. Third, more capsules does not mean more benefit, especially with a compound that already has absorption challenges. So here is the bottom line. DHM is a plant flavonoid found mainly in vine tea and Hovenia dulcis. Your body does not make it, and there is no recognized deficiency state. The science is most promising in alcohol-related and metabolic liver conversations, but human evidence is still early and mixed, not strong enough for miracle claims. If you want the low-risk first step, start with a realistic question. Am I looking for a better lifestyle foundation, or am I looking for a supplement to do a job it may not be able to do? Then, if you still want to explore DHM, choose a simple, quality-tested product. Keep the dose reasonable, and check it with your clinician or pharmacist before mixing it with medicines.
One action you can take today is to look at why you want DHM in the first place, and write that down in one sentence before you buy anything. Are you trying to buffer alcohol, support liver labs, or just follow a trend? That one sentence will make your next step smarter. And tell me in the comments, have you actually tried DHM? Share your experiences in the comments, and let us know what supplement you would like to learn about next.